Morning, everybody, and just to introduce what I'll be doing over the next couple of months. So I'm starting a conversation piece called "In Conversation With," and really what I'm looking to do is to engage with people in my network that are my business partners, that are business associates, executives, entrepreneurs, and the like. People that I work with often enough to have a conversation around some of the work they're doing, some of the work I do with them, and to give you some perspective. So this morning, I'm extremely privileged to be in conversation with Abu Cassim. He's down from the Netherlands on a bit of a family break, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to have a conversation with him. Morning, Abu. Welcome.
Good morning, Sanjay. Thanks for making the time, and I'm really glad to have the opportunity to catch up.
Good. Back in Joburg after a couple of months. How does it feel?
Joburg hasn't changed all that much. It's been a year since the last trip, so yeah, good to see a lot of the family and friends that we've missed being over there. But yeah, good to be back. And winter's, let's say, mild compared to Amsterdam winter.
Yeah, this thing about winter in Joburg, tends to move on. So yeah, I guess over the next 15, 20 minutes, we're going to talk about two or three things. I'm going to get Abu to talk about his own journey, talk a bit about Jozi Angels. He's currently working with an organization in the Netherlands called VC4A, so we're going to talk a bit about that. But Abu, before we get going, I guess you and I met probably 4 or 5 years ago through COVID on a Zoom call. And I very distinctly remember this. I mean, it was at a time where I was thinking about angel investing, came across Jozi Angels, came across yourself. You and I had a conversation. 6 months later, we invested in a business. So perhaps I'm going to ask you to just tell everybody a bit about Jozi Angels. But the context is you're sitting at dinner with a few people that you know and a few people you don't know. How would you, in your words, describe Jozi Angels and the work that's being done at Jozi?
I think Jozi Angels started really in 2016 as an initiative, registered as a legal entity in 2017. But the basic premise behind it was that startups need some funding, external funding, for growth and to support their operations. So often that doesn't come through revenue. Ideally, it would, but it doesn't. So startups then need someone from the outside to put money into the business. And usually the first person or people that do so externally are angel investors, and that's what Jozi Angels is a network of angel investors. But not only do we provide the capital, but we also try and help these companies, these early stage companies, with a bit of guidance and also opening up our networks to these companies. So it's a combination of three things: the networks, the knowledge, and then the capital, and probably in that order of importance. And we tend to invest in to scalable solutions, primarily technology-based solutions, and these are things that are disrupting the existing industries, changing the landscape as we know it.
So you've spoken about a couple of things, and I guess for me, the key thing that attracted me to Jozi Angels and the work that's been done is it's actually outside of the capital piece. You know, it's that piece where individuals have access to network, have access to knowledge, experience, and how do you lend that forward to founders and entrepreneurs to give them a leg up? Thanks for that. You've spoken a bit about the business starting in 2016. Tell us a bit about your own journey in the investment space.
Yeah, I prior to that, I had run my own initiatives, my own tech startup. I'd also been a mentor, and I'd also been facilitating a lot of support initiatives, so helping companies with a lot of the frameworks that we use today in building a business. So lean startup comes to mind, design thinking comes to mind. So I'd seen the startup space from a few different angles. And what I'd not done at the time was actually invest into these companies. And actually, prior to doing work in the startup space, I was in asset management. And so I essentially married two disciplines, one investing and the other building businesses in setting up Jozi Angels. And so started investing in 2016, really through syndicates and making small investments at the time relative to the amount of capital that we are investing into these companies today. But it all started with me being more of a mentor, more of a supporter, and then bringing the capital afterwards.
So you've spoken about smaller check sizes and sort of where the businesses have evolved. Jozi will be 10 years in the next couple of months. Talk to us a bit about those early days and sort of where the Jozi investment business model has evolved, check sizes. Equally importantly, share with the listeners the deals that have been done over the last many years.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to say about Jozi Angels back in 2016 was that there was a distinct lack of capital in the market. There still is a lack of capital in the South African context, but it was much worse. It was harder to come by, and Jozi Angels was essentially set up to solve that issue in the market. The ticket sizes, as I mentioned, were a lot smaller, and the sectors were maybe slightly different as well. We also saw a lot of B2C, so business to consumer solutions, but then eventually gravitated towards business to business, B2B solutions. The other thing that has changed a lot is the corporate engagement. So there's a lot more corporate engagement now than we saw previously. Also at the time, there was a lot of copycatting. So companies seeing what was working in the US, seeing what was working in Europe, and trying to copy that in South Africa. And generally, the support networks were also a copy paste of what we were seeing in the US. But we've slowly gravitated towards a South African solution and an African solution more broadly. And I think that's better for the economy. The other thing that's been quite a big change is just the founder experience. So I think a lot of the founders that we were supporting back then were first-time founders, were founders that were also trying to find their feet. I think now there's a lot more understanding, a lot more context of the startup way than there was before, especially from the founder's perspective.
Just a final point on Joji. I'm going to switch gears a bit. Talk to talk to us about the number of deals that Joji has done over the last many years.
So we're approaching 60 deals that we've done over the almost 10 years now. Initially, the model was slightly different, whereby angels were individually making investments into these companies. And then eventually we packaged all of this into a syndication model where Jozi Angels itself was doing the heavy lifting for these investors, and then forming the syndicates to make investments. So since then, some of the probably the more notable investments are a company called Jobbox. So Jobbox is tackling the unemployment issues in South Africa through a scalable platform that's making a big difference. They've come a long way. We've also invested into a business called Neural Sense that's in the neural marketing space, and there've been a few in the education space, a few in the health tech space, a few in the logistics space. A business called Tunnel comes to mind. That's actually doing some exceptional work in helping South African companies exporting goods into other markets. Um, and yeah, one of the biggest other sectors is fintech, and that tends to actually attract most of the funding in the South African context.
60 deals is a big number. I've been privileged to have, over the last sort of 4 years, invested in a few transactions. I also invested in the Tunnel transaction. Great business, love the founders, doing some exceptional work, and that business is growing. Just want to tag on to the work that you started at Jozi Angels. A couple of years ago, you and your family decided to basically move overseas. Talk to us about the work that you're currently doing at VC for a general alignment in the startup space, but perhaps just talk a bit about the work that's being done at VC4A.
Yeah, I've known the guys at VC for almost a decade now. They've been doing exceptional work in the startup space since 2007. And when I got to the Netherlands, started a conversation with them, and immediately there was alignment. Their focus is Pan Africa, but they've also started working now in Latin America and certain parts of Asia. And it's primarily support for entrepreneurs as a delivery offering, and secondly, grant distribution. And my focus has been on the support work, support function. So we do investment readiness training for African startups, and the focus there is giving startups a sense of what investors look for. It's a combination of masterclasses, and these masterclasses are run by investors active on the continent. They give the founders a good sense of what investors look for, and also some of the technical sides of that investment discussion. There are also technical masterclasses, there's mentorship, and then we culminate all of this with deal rooms where we connect founders to investors that are actually interested and have shown an interest in their business.
Just want to pick up on something. You speak a lot about support of founders, getting them investor ready, grant support, and the like. I'll ask you two questions together: DNA of a deal that works and typical red flags that you've seen, not only in the work that you've done at VC3 over the last couple of years, but over the last 15, 20 years being involved in the investment space. What are some of those red flags that, as an investor and somebody looking to deploy capital, that I guess starts to jump out at you?
Yeah, I think let's start with the things we look for. So typically, the first thing is team, and as an early stage investor, often you're investing into that team that have started something, but you're believing in the team. It's the team that is going to make it happen. There's this saying in the space that we often invest in an A team, and often the idea is secondary. So sometimes the idea is a B idea, but it's the A team that actually makes it happen. The idea is also important, so that is the second thing we look for. Is the solution innovative? Is it different? Is there a what we call a moat, so it's a defensive position? And is the third thing is the scalable nature of the solution, and is the market then big enough for the business to grow into? So those are the three things we the kind of the foundational elements that we look for, and then it's a question of how far the business has come along. So what traction have they achieved? How many customers do they have? How much revenue have they earned? And then it's a question of fit. So we don't invest in anything and everything we see, but it needs to be a good fit for our investor network and the things that we are looking for. In terms of red flags, so I think we have seen quite a lot of companies put forward exorbitant valuations. So that would be something that we find a challenge. Essentially, what happens is we play forward our investment. So we look at this investment from a 5 to 10 year perspective, and then assess what ROI, return on investment, we are going to be getting from these companies. And if the valuation at the starting point of our engagement is too high, it means our potential return, is also been limited. So that would be one to consider. Another thing is just compliance, general authenticity of the team, and I think we see this very much as a long-term partnership, and so being able to establish a relationship with the person or people running the business is super important.
So I want to pick up on the red flag. For me, I guess two things sort of come to mind. Founders typically raise because other people are raising, and that's a bad reason. And secondly, they don't have an idea around the capital that they require and what they intend to use the capital, right? Capital is not there to pay salaries. Capital is to allow you to take your solution, make it better, get into market, and to grow and expand your business. So those are sort of two things that often come to mind when I look at transactions as well. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Let's talk about a bad deal. Don't quote the founders, don't quote the company. Bad deal that either you've done or been involved in, and why was it a bad deal?
Yeah. So there is with the startup space generally, it's a risky environment, right? So any new angel coming into the space needs to be aware of two things. There are going to be many failures, but also it's long term in nature. So your capital is tied in. Those are two fundamental aspects of angel investing. In terms of some of the deals that we that haven't worked out, one in particular comes to mind. We invested into a solo entrepreneur, so the solo founder, single person, from a technology background, and strong technical basis, but lacked maybe some of the business acumen to go and execute on that opportunity. Um, and yeah, I think with a lot of technology-based founders, their happy place is building a product, but not necessarily being out in the market and engaging with potential customers. And that was the biggest challenge for this particular founder. And as a result, the solution was great, but it just never got the traction it needed to take off. And unfortunately, it's just kind of petered along and not gone anywhere.
I just want to pick up on something you spoke about, solo founders. I speak a lot about this. And it's about two perspectives. Having a co-founder is a great idea. Two is better than one. Diverse thinking helps you as the initial founder think about your business. And then the second add-on to that is that you want to build a team. You can't do this on your own. And that's certainly an experience we've seen, not only in the deals that we look at as part of the network in Jozi Angels, but just across the sector. Get a co-founder, build up a team. Abu, probably just want to talk about two or three quick things. Next 3 to 5 years, dual lens again. Guess from a VC for a perspective with the work that you're doing, what are you sort of seeing over the next 3 to 5 years? And then again from a Jozi perspective, I'm aware you're no longer involved actively in the business. Um, Perhaps things that you think are likely to come up over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think from a VC5 perspective, I think there's Africa's a super exciting opportunity. I think we have been or are quite familiar with the tier one markets. So the tier one markets are South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, and Egypt in Africa. They tend to attract most of the funding. It's a more mature ecosystem. There's a big local investor base, and it's also attracting a lot of international capital. The tier two markets, so that's Ghana, Morocco, Tunisia, Tanzania, Rwanda, and part of Francophone Africa. There are a few there as well. I think those are exciting. Those for me, there is a lot of active ecosystem building that's going on there. There's a burgeoning investor base that's coming up there, and I think there's big opportunities there, and they're finding their feet. I think it's important that each ecosystem focuses on the areas that they are good at. So in East Africa, we are seeing a lot of agriculture solutions, which is just an extension of the culture there. In West Africa, we're seeing a lot of fintech solutions and some marketplaces coming up, which is a function of that market as well. But really exciting to see the opportunities in Africa. South Africa specifically, I think there's more and more corporate engagement, which is I think going to drive the market. That is really where the money is at. Yeah, I think the more engagement we see there, the better. It also opens the doors up for startups looking to sell into the corporate segment. The other aspect, which is exciting for me, is government involvement. So we are hearing more of a unified voice. I think historically the government has been quite fragmented, different organizations within the government supporting, but driving different agendas. And I think a unified approach to the startup space is going to be helpful. and some co-investment and some co-funding would also be helpful. But yeah, I think the other thing that I mentioned about South Africa is just the maturity of the ecosystem, the maturity of the founders. Second-time founders have learned their lessons from the first companies, and that just tends to build for a stronger, more robust ecosystem.
What would be a piece of advice you would give a founder when they start approaching the likes of Jozi Angels, looking for funding, scaling their business? Just one nugget that you can throw out there.
Yeah, so I think approach it like a relationship, a long-term relationship, and not a transaction. That's the way we see it as well. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is at least have gone to market with something. So have some data, have some feedback from the market on what the solution, on how the solution take up has been. Ideas are good, but actually having some engagement with the market just holds a lot more weight for us.
Yeah, that's, for me, the last couple of investments I've made have 70% of my own lens have actually been principally on one thing. Can I build a relationship with this founder? So when times are tough, we can knuckle down together. And the key aspect for any founder, build a relationship with your co-founder, your team, the investment, I guess, people, and your funders. Relationships count more than your idea. So I'm going to ask you a couple of really quick fire questions, as I call it. Coffee or tea?
Coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon.
I was going to say the same thing. My morning has to start with coffee. By 9 o'clock, if I haven't had my coffee, the day is not gone on. And interestingly enough, for those, so I'm going to share something. I've got a bit of an autoimmune condition. My fingers swell up, so I started drinking a lot more tea. But I've got this ginger tea that I drink, particularly in winter. You put a couple of things in the pot, boil it, and yeah, so very similar to yourself. Coffee in the morning. I try to limit my coffee to one a day, and sometimes tea in the afternoon. If I were to give you a wish to have dinner with a founder, who would that be?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Yeah, I've been fortunate to have met a lot of great founders on the African continent through the work we've done at Jozi Angels and also the work we've done at VC4A. I think it would have been great to meet Mark Shuttleworth in the early days of his business. I've heard stories of how they worked out of the house and it was long hours and guys almost lived in the business. So it would have been great to see a success story like that in the early days and to have been part of that story. But yeah, just hearing it from the horse's mouth, from Mark's mouth, would be amazing.
Yeah, so I've got a shout out. I was at an event last week and had the privilege of hearing Melvin Lubega. So, Melvin, if you get a wind of this, love to catch a coffee with you. Your journey is truly inspiring for the African continent. So, love to pick your brain at some point. Abu, guess final question from my side. Any motto or phrase that drives you every day? I'm asking a hard question, sorry.
Yeah. Um, Not one in particular. I think, yeah, uh, yeah. I think advice that I got as a child, and growing up, I was quite a shy kid, and I'm probably still a shy person. But my aunt once told me that if you don't ask, you don't get. Um, and yeah, I think just having that confidence to ask and that confidence to put yourself out there has changed the way I approach life as well.
If you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. Something I live by every single day. What can I do today to impact the life of at least one other person? Abu, thank you very much for spending this last 25 odd minutes with you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Lots of nuggets to take out there. Perhaps want to pick up on two things. You know, I guess this sort of, I guess, goes out to the founders. The first thing, believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. Investors pick that up very, very quickly. And the second thing for me, in the tech space, in the startup space, it's about relationships. Not only with your business, but with the ecosystem. Abu, thank you very much again for your time. It's been an absolute privilege having you chat to me this morning. And looking forward to chatting over the next couple of weeks. Safe travels back to your new home over the next couple of days, and enjoy, hopefully, the better weather over the next 4 or 5 days in Johannesburg. Abu, thank you again very much. It's
Thanks,
been an
Sanjay.
absolute pleasure.
Yeah, lovely to catch up. Thanks for the opportunity, and yeah, look forward to picking up the conversation.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be in conversation again in the next couple of days. So looking forward to chatting to you again soon. Cheers now. Bye-bye.